And hello, today I'm going to go over a very important hot topic going on, especially in Florida. It's the condo crisis. And if you haven't heard, this will be a good eye-opener for you, especially if you're thinking of moving to Florida and purchasing a condo. Now, I'm not saying I'm totally against them. As many of you know, I did just recently purchase a condo. Absolutely no regrets at all. So let me just start off by saying that. I think condos are great. It's a crazy affordable way to be able to live really either on the beach or close to the beach, especially right here in Central Florida. The Daytona Beach area, it is some of the most affordable property you can purchase anywhere from Miami to Maine. I can't think of anywhere else you can live and have $1 million views for a couple $100,000. It's just fantastic. Now, with that said, there have been some things that have been changing, and I was hoping this video, especially if some of you could chime in and give me your thoughts, it would be greatly appreciated. I know many of you live here or are thinking of moving here and have probably been already watching what's going on, especially what I'm talking to. What kicked this all off was back in 2021 with the collapse of the Surfside condo down in Surfside, Florida. They had that collapse and it just implemented a lot of new rules and regulations, which, to tell you the truth, I find to be helpful. I know it's a shock to a lot, but that should have never happened. 98 people died during that collapse. It was just really just horrible. And a big part was because they just kept deferring the maintenance and putting it off. So a lot of that has changed. The sad part, though, is many people bought these condos years ago when maybe the HOA fee was only a couple $100, and it included the water, they have cable, the insurance, keeps your HOA insurance down, so your condo insurance HO6 is a little more affordable. And with that all said, of course, we also have a big insurance thing going on here as well. A lot of insurance companies have pulled out of the state due to insurance fraud, due to their hurricanes, due to the collapse. And between that and the new rules coming on, it's been a huge shock to a lot of people, a lot of homeowners that own condos here in Florida, especially down south, where it's just, they've been getting hit a lot harder. Some of them, I'm watching some stories where developers have moved in and have forced them out, basically telling them to take this price for their condo and they have so many days to move out and they're just going to redo it, or where their HOA fee has tripled. It's just outrageous due to insurance. Maybe the insurance was $56,000, now it's like $500,000. And that affects each and every homeowner. So I have some notes over here, so I keep looking over at. I don't want to forget anything. Again, go ahead and put it in the chat if there's any comments or anything you would like to talk about. So issues the condo owners are facing is the new law will go into effect at the end of this year, by the way. And with a lot of the buildings not being fully funded, because over the years, that was not a requirement. They could just keep pushing it off in order to not raise the HOA fees. But some of the issues the owners are facing is the inspections. I'll get into that a little more. Structural repairs, reserve funding. Like I touched on, a lot of them are being displaced. They're being forced out of their homes. Maybe we're on a fixed income, they're retired, and they just cannot afford not only the new state law HOA fees that are coming in, but maybe the special assessments. I have some friends here locally bought a condo. They not only have a special assessment because their pool basically fell in the ocean over a year ago with Hurricane Ian. Owners have to pay for that. Well, with these new laws and regulations, they're getting hit with that as well. Thank goodness they are in a position where they can afford it, but I know many can't. They told me their fees, and I was just like, God, glad my pool didn't fall in the ocean. I'm across the street, so that would have been pretty bad if it would have. Also, some owners are facing rising insurance costs with the companies pulling out, like I touched on. The HO fees and what they cover. And guess what? Property taxes, they're still not going down. There was even such an uproar over this because they were just thrown at these homeowners from the board members. That place down in Miami, they had to bring the police into the board meeting. I think it's just sometimes people just have a really hard time accepting it. And when it's just thrown at them, it's just the way it was delivered. It just, people start fueling off of each other, and it's really sad sometimes. Hey, Dana. Yeah. So the new law, thanks for asking. So what the new law is basically by the end of this year, 2024, any condo that has 3 stories or more has to have this inspection done. At least, and it depends where you're at. If you're 20, if the building is over 25 years and they're within 3 miles of the coastal, because of the ocean, the salt water, they have to have it done. And then every 10 years after that. And then any building at least 30 years old, if you're a little more inland, has to have it done. And these inspections must be completed by the end of this year. And then the reports found in the inspection, which will be performed by either an engineer or an architect, these findings have to be taken care of within 365 days. Again, the owners are going to have to pay for these. So just a little tip real quick. If you are planning on buying a condo, it's always been great advice. Make sure you get a hold of the reserves and see what the financials look like. Also ask them if they have had these milestone inspections. And if so, ask to see the report. And will there be any special assessments from the findings? Because maybe not everybody's going to have to pay for this. If you are a seller selling your condo and you have had this done, guess what? You do have to provide this inspection with the structural integrity and the reserve study if it's available. Now, will all sellers know to do this or willingly do this? Possibly not. So as a buyer beware, make sure you ask for this, or even better yet, just get representation. Ask, I know you're not going to hear this, have a real estate agent that's experienced with condo sales and have them help you along this process. When the engineers come and look at the properties, and then also a reserve studies have to be done. All this is going to cost money, and none of it's cheap. As we know, engineers are not cheap. Do they see any relief with insurance companies? Well, that's interesting. You mentioned that. I was talking to a CAM manager who's a condo. They're the managers that normally sit and help with the condos and run the condos. And she was saying she was hearing some hearsay. We'll see. Some insurance companies are going to start coming back in, which would be great. Then we wouldn't just have a few with the prices so high. So there could be. I wouldn't hold my breath at this point, but yeah, there could be. I mean, think about it. It has to just come to some type of settlement. This dust needs to settle, and it all will eventually work its way out. But in the meantime, these are just some things to know if you are thinking of selling and or buying a condo. So another thing is, what are the inspection protocols for the condos? Well, the Florida Condo Act does require condo associations to set aside money for the repairs starting in 2025. So remember, this year is the year, by the end of the year, they have to have the inspections done by either the engineer or an architect. And then the money will be set aside for repairs that exceed $10,000. This doesn't include stuff like carpeting or painting, anything cosmetics. Condos existing on or before July 21st, 2022 must have what is called a structural integrity reserve study, a SIRS, they're calling it. And that needs to be completed for every building, like I said, that's either 3 stories or higher. And that does include the stories. If you have a garage basement, that's considered a story like level 1, and then 2 and 3. So if you have a garage, and that's one of the levels that is considered a part of the level. I currently live in a 8th floor building. It's like 7.5. So we're definitely going to be part of this. And then what is the reserve law in 2025? Starting in 2025, owner-controlled condos may no longer elect to reserve less or underfunding for the following components. Now, again, this kind of goes back to why that at Champlain Towers down in Surfside happened. They were okay, just like, we don't want another increase, so let's just go ahead and we don't need to fund it. We'll get the assessment when the time comes. Maybe they needed a new elevator or something checked, and they just kept putting it off, kicking the can down the street until finally, they just kicked it too far. But now with the so they have to have anything that'll cost $10,000 or more, such as the roof, load-bearing walls, or primary structural members, floors, foundation, fireproofing, and fire. Those all have to have the reserves fully funded. There's no longer an option if they can fund it. Now, there are other little things that, will have to be worked out. For example, many condos have the owners are responsible for their own windows. Some are not. I know some, the HOA will pay for the windows. But when I was talking to the cam earlier, she had said, to her knowledge, I was trying to prepare for this as much as possible, that the report is just the common area windows. But if an engineer and architect comes in and notices none of the owners have been updating their sliding glass doors or their windows, we're not sure what's going to happen with that just yet. Because those are not cheap to get, like a sliding glass door by the ocean. Those are some of the most expensive windows because they have to be hurricane proof. Anything on beachside, you can't just put regular windows in, which are expensive enough. You have to use hurricane proof windows. So that'll just be something, maybe if you own your condo, you might want to start being prepared to save for, because maybe, I don't know if they can force you to replace your windows on top of everything else if they need replacing as part of it. The other part of the condo I was noticing is the human impact. So what I mean by that is, I kind of hit on it earlier, there's been a lot of displaced residents and their struggles. Many people are not going to be able to afford these increases. Like I mentioned, I just purchased a condo in Daytona Beach Shores a couple months ago. I moved in, the HOA was $570. It does include internet, water, cable, everything but the electric. So it's really nice. Plus there's an indoor pool, outdoor pool, fitness center. I'm like, hey, that's not a bad deal. And then January 1st, they raised it to $780 to help start funding this. Instead of doing one big assessment, they decided to split it up. So that went up considerably. Can it or will it go up again? I would not be surprised. I really think it probably will, because once we have our engineer inspection done, well, what if we need a rebar replaced or something like that? Then I guess that would be another assessment. And sometimes what they do, if it's too big, sometimes the condos will get a loan and then each owner, pays back by raising the HOA again. Or each owner will have to be assessed. And if it's, say, like $60,000, sometimes they can let you break it up over like four payments or something over a year. But even still with the higher HOA, taxes going up, insurance going up, and now a huge assessment, it can get pretty pricey for some. And then if you go to sell because you're like, I can't afford it, you got to disclose all that. And you're probably going to take a hit on the sale of the condo to try and offset the assessment. It's just something to think about. Now, hopefully, you're in a good situation. I hope I'll be okay. I'm pretty sure I will, but I know it, like I said, people that bought not just here, but maybe down south farther or up in the panhandle that bought years ago a very affordable condo, and these fees just keep coming on and coming on, and those just really start adding up. So with the rising condo fees and special assessments, sometimes it's unfortunately just too much for some. Now, another thing I wanted to touch on is also, I was going to say also with the mental health, some of them are suffering too. I'm going to go back to human impact, is living near or at risk buildings. I've been reading reports that some people are really having a lot of anxiety and stress over the potential trauma of losing their home. I can only imagine, especially, people are in lower income or fixed income seniors. This could be a real struggle for them. And then to make it on top of it, like trying to sell, I tried to get some lenders on. I don't know if they were busy or what's going on, but let's see what strategies. Selling a condo that you think is, so you would have, with this question, I would take it per building and per condo and per situation. I know it sounds crazy, but you always can find the good in something. And it's not at a point yet where and I do have some listings coming up that are condos, but both of them have nothing to do with the higher HOA fees. I just really believe some are going to be coming up, and it's going to be because they're just like, I just can't afford this no more. It's just too much. So we'll see how that goes, but I would take it per condo. And is it just the HOA fee raised? Did they have any special assessment? Did they have the reserve study done? Did the engineers come in yet, or what's going on? And then just take it from there and see how we could get it sold for the max amount of money, and just obviously doing what's fair and disclosing everything. Yeah, Judy asks, is it harder to get financing for condos in Daytona Beach? Yes and no. It's not harder to get financing for condos in Daytona Beach. It's harder to get financing for condos in general. It's always been a little tricky, but now with this, it can be a lot harder. So you will find cash is best, especially with condos. And why that is some of them, if the reserves are not fully funded, you may have to put 70% down. Well, that's almost cash right there. And that could be pretty heavy hit for a lot of people, putting 70% down. Plus, your HOA is factored into your loan for your loan to value, and it might just disqualify you because of your monthly debt to income. So make sure you get that information up front before you start applying for your loan or moving along with purchasing a condo, because they still could, you want to save on, your inspection fees and maybe an appraisal fee, to only find out later you got bumped out because they're raising the HOA fee, and now you can no longer afford that condo because your debt to income ratio, your monthly debt ratio is out of whack and you cannot get the loan. Also, from what I'm being told, and again, I really wish one of my lender friends would have hopped on. Maybe next time I'll try and share the screen with one of them. But no VA and no FHAs in condos. So just conventional loans. And again, with conventional loans, you got to put down, normally 20%. And it could be a lot of hoops and ladders to jump through. But it's just something else to consider. And again, it's not a pitch to hire a real estate agent, but this is where not just any realtor, but a realtor that really knows their stuff can really help you in this area, because Buying single family homes is one thing. Buying condos is a whole different thing, and you really want to hire or have an expert working for you in this field, someone that knows the ins and out, because there's just so much to condos. This video really just kind of gave you an overview. I plan on making some more. There's even a blacklist with Fannie Mae with condos. This is all really good information you should know when looking to buy or sell a condo in the state of Florida. And if you're watching this for the replay, go ahead and comment below, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you all for watching and participating, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Make it a good day. Talk to y'all soon. Bye now.